The first red flag wasn't the contract, it was how calm they were. People only smile like that when they think they've already won. I didn't argue. I memorized every word, every clause, every lie, and started planning how to burn them with their own paperwork. They brought the papers to dinner like a gift, smiling too much, voices smooth, eyes rehearsed. The folder was thick, leather-bound, the kind lawyers use when they already know the answer. I'd booked the reservation to celebrate something else entirely. After 3 years of sleepless nights and unpaid hours, my clinic was finally profitable. I wanted to toast the future, not sign it away. My mother ordered wine before I could speak, my father adjusted his tie, and my sister, Lauren, placed the folder exactly between our plates like a referee placing the ball. "We're so proud of you," Mom said. "You've worked hard. But it's time to make things easier." Easier. That word always hides a trap. I opened the folder carefully, reading the bold title, Interim Management Agreement. The first clause transferred operations to Acting Director, Lauren Wells. My name appeared only in the acknowledgement section, next to a blank signature line. "It's just temporary," Mom added, pretending to study the menu. "Lauren can manage the financial side while you focus on patients. 20% of the profits, family shared. It's fair." Fair, I repeated silently. Fair to who? I'd started that clinic from a one-room sublease and a used ultrasound machine. I'd begged a bank manager for a $40,000 loan wearing a suit from clearance. I'd worked 14-hour days diagnosing, billing, cleaning, fighting insurance denials alone. And now they were talking about fair. Lauren smiled like she'd earned it. "We all just want you to have balance," she said. "Balance is what people offer when they want control." I flipped a few pages. Each section was meticulous, clauses numbered, language polished, every detail designed to look harmless. But I recognized the style. It mirrored my own incorporation documents. Someone had copied my structure, my tone, even my formatting. That's what hit me first. This wasn't drafted by chance. "Who wrote this?" I asked. Mom hesitated, eyes dropping to her napkin. Dad said, "We consulted an attorney. For protection. Yours or mine?" I asked softly. He didn't answer. Lauren folded her hands. "We just need your approval to make transitions smoother," she said. "I already spoke with your accountant. He agrees it's smart." My accountant. That was new. I felt my jaw tighten. I closed the folder, slid it back across the table, and smiled like the patient one. "Interesting timing," I said. 3 years of silence, and now you're experts in operations." Mom reached out, her voice turning gentle. "Sweetheart, don't take it like that. This is family." I looked at her ring, catching the candlelight, and thought how easy it must be to call betrayal family. I leaned back, quiet, pretending to consider it. But every sentence I'd read kept echoing in my head. Clause 4. 4. Transfer of authority in the event of owner fatigue. My own phrasing. My own clause. Copied. Reused. Twisted. I realized then it wasn't just a random contract. They'd found one of my drafts. Probably emailed to Lauren months ago when she offered to help organize paperwork. I never thought she'd weaponize it. The server refilled our glasses, no one drank. Lauren's pen waited beside the signature block like a blade. "So," she asked, voice light, impatient. "Will you sign?" I smiled again, a little too calmly. "Not tonight," I said. Her eyes flickered. She thought she had me cornered. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd already prepared my own papers. The real ones. And they were waiting in my briefcase. The next morning, I arrived at the clinic before sunrise, the halls still humming with the low electric buzz of machines asleep. I made coffee in the break room, opened my laptop, and started my usual Monday audit, payroll, vendor balances, new patient logs. But something felt off immediately. My credentials rejected. Invalid password. I tried again. Same message. Then I noticed the footer of the login page had changed, managed by Wells Administrative Solutions. Lauren's company. A consulting firm she launched last year with no clients, no staff, just her name on a glossy website. I leaned back, staring at the monitor until the screen dimmed. She had already integrated her systems into mine. Quietly. Legally. Efficiently. I called our IT lead, Marcus, pretending to sound casual. Strange login issue, I said. He hesitated before answering. Yeah, about that, your sister asked us to reroute admin access under the new management structure. She said you'd approved it. My pulse slowed, but my voice didn't. Forward me the email she sent. 5 minutes later, his screenshot landed in my inbox. A perfect copy of my writing style, sign-off included. Even the phrasing of my signature matched. She'd forged it. I stared at my name typed beneath words I never wrote, and, for a second, my brain refused to process it. Not anger. Just static. When I finally exhaled, I started printing. Every line. Every timestamp. Every digital trace. The betrayal wasn't emotional, it was procedural. And that made it worse. By 9 a.m., my staff started arriving, cheerful, unaware. They didn't know that while they were treating patients, someone was rearranging payroll access, redirecting vendor contracts, quietly stripping authority away from the woman who'd built the place. Lauren stopped by Friday, said Dana, one of my nurse practitioners, while unpacking supplies. She said we might be switching to her management software next month. She made it sound exciting. I smiled faintly. Did she? Dana nodded. She mentioned bonuses. I'd been planning those bonuses for December. She must have seen the draft spreadsheet on my shared drive. I opened my phone and searched Lauren Wells Administrative Solutions. A new post appeared, dated yesterday. Proud to announce our partnership with the Haven Women's Clinic. Together, we're redefining care. My clinic. My name wasn't mentioned once. I felt something colder than anger, a clean, sharp focus. I wasn't going to yell or accuse. That's what they expected. They wanted noise, emotion, proof I was unfit to lead. Instead, I started collecting details. Every document, every staff statement, every backdated signature. I built a quiet archive of their confidence. That afternoon, my father called. Don't overreact, he said, voice steady like he was calming a patient. Lauren is just more organized with numbers. You're the visionary. Let her handle structure. I didn't reply. He filled the silence himself. You're too attached to control. That's your flaw. I looked at the printed forgeries spread across my desk. Maybe, I said. But I also don't make mistakes. When I hung up, I opened the old folder from the dinner table again. Clause 4. Stared back at me. Transfer of authority in the event of owner fatigue. I underlined one word, owner. That's what they forgot. No matter what they filed, no matter what she claimed, I was still that. And ownership, unlike signatures, couldn't be faked. I smiled slowly. They thought they'd cornered me, but they'd only built me a stage. By the end of the week, the betrayal had a face, a tone, and a public announcement. Friday morning, I walked into the clinic and felt the air change before I even reached my office. The front desk looked freshly rearranged, new signage, same colors, but a new logo underneath. Wells Administrative Solutions, Partner Clinic. My receptionist, Hannah, looked uneasy when she saw me. Lauren said she'd cleared it with you, she whispered, almost apologetically. My name wasn't on the door anymore. It hit me harder than the forged email, harder than the silent theft of access. A symbol erased cleanly, without confrontation. I stepped into my office. The desk had been moved. Even the framed licenses were stacked neatly on the side table, ready to be reformatted. My clinic, stripped like it was under renovation. A sticky note on my monitor in Lauren's handwriting. Board meeting at 11 a.m. Important updates. My stomach went cold. There was no board. Just me, the owner. But at 11, when I entered the conference room, they were all there, my parents, my sister, and 2 outsiders in tailored suits. This is ridiculous, I said softly, taking the chair at the head of the table that had always been mine. Lauren smiled like a TV anchor. We're just formalizing transitions, she said, sliding documents toward me. This is Mr. Donovan, our new financial advisor, and Ms. Pratt from legal counsel. I scanned the top sheet. Resolution of transfer of operational control. My name sat beneath, former acting director. The print blurred for a second. My mother folded her hands. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, sweetheart. My father said nothing, but the way he avoided my eyes told me everything. They'd decided without me. Lauren's voice softened. You're brilliant at patient care, but business management isn't your strength. We're protecting your legacy. Protecting my legacy. The same phrase my father used when I refused to sell the clinic 2 years ago. He called me emotional then. Said logic should lead, not pride. I remembered how he'd told me, you can't do everything. And how I had anyway. I kept my hands folded, the picture of calm, while my pulse clawed against my throat. Lauren started a slideshow, charts, projections, fabricated losses. She'd backdated invoices, inflated overhead, and conveniently omitted that she'd rerouted funds to her own firm. It looked polished, legitimate. Anyone who didn't know the truth would think I was reckless. When she finished, she looked at me expectantly. See why we need this transition? I didn't answer. I reached for the folder she'd set aside and flipped through the final page. It bore my electronic signature again. Perfectly forged. You really went all in, I murmured. You even practiced my slant. For the first time, her face twitched. I don't know what you mean, she said. I met her eyes. Oh, I think you do. I could have exposed her then, called the police, called the Board of Health, even the local press. But not yet. A public outburst would give them leverage, proof of instability. They wanted a scene. I gave them stillness instead. I signed the attendance sheet, not the transfer, then stood. If you're done presenting fiction, I said quietly, I'll return to running my clinic. Ms. Pratt started to object, but I was already at the door. Behind me, Lauren's voice followed, trembling between arrogance and panic. You can't just ignore this. It's official. I turned back once. Not yet, I said. Her jaw tightened, like she couldn't tell if I was bluffing. I wasn't. Because while she'd spent weeks building her case, I'd spent months building mine. I just hadn't told anyone. And that, I realized, was the difference between us. She thought she'd taken everything. But she hadn't seen what I kept hidden. I sat in my car for almost an hour after that meeting, engine off, fingers pressed against the steering wheel, feeling the weight of every silence I hadn't interrupted. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't scream, it organizes itself quietly, like a spreadsheet you forgot to close. I opened my briefcase and spread the papers across the passenger seat. Lauren had forged signatures, yes, but she'd also left fingerprints in metadata, version histories, timestamps. She thought professionalism would protect her, that clean formatting equals truth. But I was a doctor, not an amateur. My world ran on proof, and proof was what she'd just handed me. Clause 4. For had been copied straight from my draft, but the file properties showed creation by Lauren Wells 3 weeks after I'd last accessed it. Sloppy. Predictable. She hadn't even changed the template title, Haven_operations_draft_confidential. Docs. I almost laughed. That night, I stayed late at the clinic. Everyone had gone home except me and the faint hum of the lab refrigerator. I walked through each room slowly, exam rooms, waiting area, break room, touching the walls like they were witnesses. I remembered every unpaid bill, every sleepless night, every patient who cried when they finally got help. It wasn't just a clinic, it was my entire 20s. And now my family had turned it into a business conquest. But emotion wouldn't win this. Precision would. I sat at my desk and opened a blank document titled Countermeasures. If Lauren wanted legal theater, I'd give her the full show. Step 1. Gather evidence. I forwarded the forged emails to my private server, exported logs, and began creating a timeline of every unauthorized action. Step 2. Ownership verification. I dug out my original incorporation documents, the ones that listed me as sole founder, sole signatory, and primary license holder under the state's Medical Regulatory Board. That meant even if they faked control on paper, they couldn't operate legally without my credentials. And step 3, exposure. But it had to be surgical, not explosive. They'd painted me as emotional, impulsive, tired. So my revenge needed to be clean, quiet, undeniable. Around midnight, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months, Rebecca Collins, my old classmate turned investigative health reporter. She owed me a favor. How soon can you meet? I asked. Depends on what you're giving me. A story, I said. About fraud, family, and a very dumb criminal with a nice manicure. She laughed softly. Tomorrow morning? Perfect. I hung up and leaned back, letting exhaustion settle like dust. But beneath it, something new was forming, not rage, not pain, but clarity. I understood now that Lauren's mistake wasn't ambition. It was arrogance. She believed control meant ownership. But ownership was in the details she hadn't bothered to learn: medical compliance, board registration, liability coverage. Things she thought were boring. I'd built those details like armor. And now they were going to cut her down. I closed my laptop, shut off the lights, and left the clinic as dawn was rising, painting the glass doors gold. The sign still read the Haven Women's Clinic. My name wasn't on it anymore, but soon, neither would hers. By the next morning, the plan had solidified like cooled glass, clear, sharp, unbreakable. Rebecca met me at a quiet cafe 2 blocks from the courthouse, her hair tied up, her recorder already running before I sat down. So, she said, how deep does this go? I slid a folder across the table. She forged my signature on operational transfers, redirected clinic funds, and filed partnership claims with the state under fraudulent ownership. Rebecca's eyes lit with that predatory spark journalists get when the truth is uglier than fiction. And your proof? I smiled. All digital. Timestamps, signatures, transaction trails. She wanted my name on everything. Turns out that's her biggest mistake. She whistled low. You want this public? Not yet, I said. First, I want them to know I know. She nodded slowly, understanding the satisfaction in precision. We spent 2 hours organizing documents into a narrative: emails, contracts, tax statements, each one forming a chain of cause and effect too tight to wriggle out of. After she left, I walked to the state's medical licensing board with my originals in a sealed envelope. There's been a case of forged authorization, I told the compliance officer. She frowned, scanning my paperwork. You're the sole license holder? Still am, I said evenly. But someone's trying to run a clinic under my credentials. That's a felony, right? Her pen paused. Yes, very much so. She made copies. We'll initiate an investigation immediately. Perfect. I wanted the process to move slowly enough for them to get comfortable, but not slow enough to escape. On my way out, I stopped at the bank where our business account lived. The manager, Mr. Silva, greeted me politely. Dr. Wells, what brings you in? Just an update, I said, handing him a notarized order. Effective today, all withdrawals require dual verification, mine and mine only. He blinked. But your co-manager, no longer authorized. You'll be receiving confirmation from the state board shortly. He looked uneasy but nodded. Understood. That night, I returned to the clinic, waited until the cleaning staff left, and sat in Lauren's newly rearranged office. Her computer was unlocked. Rookie mistake. She'd been drafting an announcement for Monday, excited to lead the Haven Clinic into its next chapter under new management. I copied every file, every invoice, every message to a flash drive, labeling it insurance. Poetic enough. Before leaving, I placed a single sheet of paper in the center of her desk, my resignation letter. Except it wasn't one. It was a certified cease and desist notice addressed to Wells Administrative Solutions, signed by me, stamped by the board. The next morning, I scheduled a staff-wide meeting. Lauren didn't know yet. She'd be late, as always. When everyone gathered, I stood at the front of the room and looked at the faces that had trusted me for years. There's something you all need to know, I said calmly. And it's better you hear it from me. I explained everything: short, factual, surgical. The forged documents, the fake transfers, the misused funds. Gasps spread like a ripple across the room. I ended with one line: if anyone asks you to sign new paperwork, don't. It's not legitimate. Just as I finished, the glass door opened. Lauren froze in the doorway, her smile faltering when she realized she was walking into the wrong kind of meeting. What's going on? She demanded. I looked straight at her. Transparency, I said. You should try it sometime. The room went silent except for the click of someone's phone recording. Perfect. Let the story write itself. Monday morning felt like a stage, and every player had rehearsed except the one who thought she directed it. Lauren stormed into the clinic at 9:05 a.m., heels cracking against the tile, her face set in that perfect balance of outrage and performance. "What the hell did you tell them?" she hissed as I walked past the front desk. "The truth," I said simply, not slowing down. Behind her, staff whispered, phones half hidden, eyes darting. She followed me into the conference room, still speaking through clenched teeth. "You think you can humiliate me in front of my team?" My team. That word rolled out of her mouth like a confession. I turned and closed the door softly behind us. "Not my team anymore," I said. "Not my clinic either, right? According to your paperwork." She straightened, sensing control slipping. "Everything I did was legal," she said too quickly. "You can't just take over because you're upset." I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed copies of her forged signatures, metadata logs, transaction records, and one fresh email from the state medical board. "Then you should probably read this," I said. She skimmed it, eyes widening as she reached the last paragraph. "Your provisional authority is suspended pending investigation of fraudulent documentation." Her voice caught. You one of the board?" I nodded. "And the licensing division. And the bank. And an investigative journalist who just happens to specialize in healthcare fraud." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "You destroyed our family," she finally whispered. I leaned in slightly. "No, Lauren. You did that when you decided my work was easier to steal than to build." Her phone buzzed just then. She glanced at it and froze. The subject line read, "Urgent, legal action pending, Wells Administrative Solutions." She sank into a chair, her arrogance evaporating, replaced by something raw and unfamiliar. I picked up the folder and tapped it lightly against the table. "You'll need this for your statement," I said. "Assuming you still have counsel." Before she could respond, the door opened. My parents stepped in, called, apparently, by Lauren in a desperate last attempt to control the narrative. "What's happening?" my father demanded. "She's accusing your daughter of fraud," I said plainly. "Except it's not an accusation anymore." I handed him the email, watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to silence. My mother's eyes darted between us. "This can't be real," she whispered. I looked at her, tired but calm. "You told me to rest," I said. "So I did the paperwork for that." Lauren slammed her palm against the table. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I said softly. "It just makes me right." At that moment, Rebecca's timing was impeccable. The glass door outside the conference room burst open as she entered, camera crew in tow, press badges visible. "Dr. Wells," she called. "Do you have a comment before we publish?" The air went razor-sharp. My sister's face drained of color. She started, but the flash of the camera drowned her words. My father took a step back. My mother turned away. I looked straight at Rebecca. "Only this," I said. "Integrity shouldn't be negotiable." Flash. Record. Silence. Lauren tried to reach for the folder, but I pulled it away before she touched it. Her hand trembled. For the first time, she realized this wasn't damage control. It was exposure. Every fake signature, every rerouted dollar, every whisper she'd used to build her empire, it all burned under the same light she'd tried to keep me out of. She sank into the chair, defeated, while outside, staff watched through the glass. The silence that followed was surgical. Cameras still flashed, but Lauren didn't move. My father's lips parted like he wanted to defend her, but nothing came out. My mother pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, her eyes refusing to meet mine. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The room was already carved open by truth. Rebecca lowered her camera slightly, waiting for something cinematic, but I gave her nothing. Just quiet. I turned to Lauren, who now stared at the printouts scattered like crime scene evidence. "You built your empire on my paperwork," I said softly. "But you forgot whose name is written on every line." She looked up, tears balanced on the edge of humiliation, and for the first time, I saw her without armor, small, uncomposed, human. "You think they'll believe you over family?" she whispered. I leaned closer. "They already do." Her phone buzzed again. I didn't need to look to know what it said. The state's investigation had gone public. Her consulting license was under review. The story Rebecca just posted was already climbing through feeds under the headline, "Doctor Exposes Family in Clinic Fraud Scandal." My name was finally on the front page, not as a victim, but as the owner. The founder. The one who didn't break. I gathered my papers calmly, the same way I used to collect patient charts before rounds, precise and deliberate. "We're done here," I said. My father started. "Wait, we can talk." "No," I interrupted, my tone cutting through him like clean steel. "You had your chance to talk. You chose silence." Lauren rose halfway from her chair, desperate now. "You'll regret this," she said through clenched teeth. I stopped at the door, turned just enough to meet her eyes one last time. "No," I said. "You will." Then I walked out. The hallway outside was full, nurses, assistants, techs, patients waiting for appointments that would go on as usual. Life didn't stop for her scandal. It just moved around it. As I passed the front desk, Hannah handed me a small envelope. "Courier dropped this off earlier," she said nervously. Inside was a check, final payment from the state for our last expansion grant. It was addressed to the Haven Women's Clinic owner, Dr. Olivia Wells. My name, my title, still intact. I folded it once and slipped it into my coat pocket, the corner pressing lightly against my chest like a pulse. Behind me, the door to the conference room opened again. Voices rose, muffled and frantic. But I didn't turn back. Some endings don't need witnesses. They just need silence. I pushed the glass door open and stepped outside, the morning light cutting across my face like a clean incision. The air smelled sharper, freer. I exhaled once, slow and steady, and kept walking past the cameras, past the noise, past the people who thought they could write me out of my own story. Would you have done the same if it were your family sitting across that table?